This is the poppet valve. Hello gents, and hello to the few ladies that YouTube say watch my videos. It's been a while. If you're new here, I would like to welcome you to the channel. For my regulars, I'd like to welcome you to a new video.
Your boom pineapple wine, your $1.50 all the time.
Work life has had a hold on me for a while, but I get a bit more free time now. Let's see if we can get some work done. The old two-stroke motor is starting to show her age. She's had what I like to call old motor syndrome for a while now. So let's focus on the old two-stroke for this video. About a month back, I believe it was a week after I did the bottom paint, we took the boat out for what I like to call a shakedown run, just to see if everything is working. I didn't record this trip. It was a last-minute decision with the boys. If the boat's been sitting for a while, I usually take them out for a shakedown trip with no expectations. Just plan to run the boat, see how she feels, make sure everything is working. On this shakedown run, I ran it without the cowling when we left the dock or the ramp area. I usually run it without the cowling after it's sit for a while, just to listen to the motor, make sure all the moving parts are moving as they should. When it was time to put the cowling back on, I noticed there was water leaking from the left side of the motor. It looked like a small plastic fitting was leaking. I didn't touch it because I knew that would have been the end of the trip. I left it as is for when we're back on land, just to check it out properly. Fast forward 2 weeks now, I'm taking a look at the motor, inspecting that plastic fitting. I noticed that the bottom half of it was leaking. This plastic fitting turned out to be a part of the poppet valve assembly. When trying to remove the hose from that plastic fitting, the whole, let's say the plastic bob that screw into the left side of the engine block sheared off from the block. So instantly I knew that would need to be replaced. Further inspection led me to inspect the poppet valve, disassembling that from the exhaust cover. I found broken pieces of the poppet valve inside. So the metal spring, stainless steel spring was already rusted, and the rubber seal was already broken and falling apart. So I guess it hasn't been serviced the entire life of the motor and probably just sat in salt. Long story short, after going down the rabbit hole with the plastic fitting, removing the poppet valve, took it a bit further and decided to take a look behind the exhaust cover just to see what was going on, making sure there was no salt buildup. After removing all of the harness and computer parts, I tried to remove the exhaust cover. The very first bolt I tried to loose broke without any effort at all. At that point I knew I couldn't turn back now and had to remove all of the other bolts. At the end of the day, I've broken about 7 bolts by just simple turn of the wrench. It seems that all the center bolts going down the center were the ones that broke, or bolts that were in the area of the poppet valve assembly. I've tried heating the block with a vice grip to remove those broken bolts. I've tried welding nuts onto the top of those broken bolts and trying to spin them out with the block hot. None of that seemed to work. All while using stuff like penetrating oil to attempt to loosen up the salt or the corrosion around those bolts. With all that said, the big question is now, what do I do with the motor? What would you guys do in this situation? If you can, let me know in the comments. The way I see it, I got 3 options. The big and obvious one is buy a new motor, get rid of the 21, 22-year-old motor. 2, I can attempt to drill and retap those broken bolts and possibly get it working that way. The third one, and before I say this, don't judge. There's many ways of solving the same problem. I can put the exhaust cover back on with the good bolts, then weld the old broken bolts in place and make sure they aren't leaking. I can run the motor like that until she dies, and then that'll give me time to build up money towards buying a new motor. The goal was to make this a short video, but like I said, if you guys have any suggestions, or just let me know what you would do in this situation, I'll be happy to hear from you. Until the next video, guys, I'm out.